Man, I know I just complained about poor timing in that Forced Unleashed video, but as soon as that video went out, I learned that if I had only waited about 2 extra weeks, I could have released my Minish Cap video on the same day as it released on Nintendo Online. That timing would have been godly, bro, and I'd be swimming in those extra, I don't know, 3 or 4 views? I don't really give a shit. I don't really make these for money or anything. They're really more of a passion project. But man, I would love to make some of that big time YouTube money. Ooh, I can see myself Scrooge McDucking it right now. But enough about my misfortunes. It's about time that we got into the real meat and potatoes of this 4-course meal. Cause today, in the second part of this 4-sword saga, we'll be talking about the main game itself, The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords. Specifically the 25th Anniversary Edition that was released to coincide with, drumroll please, Zelda's 25th anniversary. I bet you didn't see that shit coming. Oh, and I guess the Minish Cap reboot came out that same year too. So woo! Year of the 4 Swords! That's like 20 years ago or some shit. Anyway, this version is fairly hard to come by these days as it was only a DSi download exclusive for the longest time, before then getting re-released onto the 3DS eShop for free for only about a week before getting its ass thrown out again. Yeah, this poor bastard cannot catch a break. Even figuring out how to emulate this thing was a bitch and a half, with having to get BIOS and ISOs and an emulator that I was really unfamiliar with just to play it, since most DS emulators don't work with DSi games off jump. I won't go into all that here, but just know that if you want to replicate this for yourself, you'll need to do a good Google search or two. Just remember to be cautious about any and all websites you download this stuff from. It can be a real pain in the ass. Oh, yeah, I might as well be open about it. If you want to play this game, piracy is your best bet, as there really is no other way to get this game unless you already have it from the DSi shop or the eShop the week it was on there. Plus, there's no cartridges for it, so there's no hand-me-downs or resales for it either. I know some of you purists are probably thinking I could have just stuck with a GBA version, but no. Not only is the anniversary full of its own exclusive content, I have my own sentimental reasons to want to play this version. But we'll leave all that for later, cause I'm sure some of you are wondering what the hell a 4 Swords even is. So how about we get into that? We went over most of this last time, so I'll keep it brief. Basically, after the Capcom team finished up the 2 Oracle games on Game Boy, they started work on a new Zelda title that would one day become the Minish Cap. However, partway through development, the big boys from the Big N came to them with a proposition to work on porting A Link to the Past to the upcoming GBA. And when the big boys from the Big N ask, you know you best deliver. So the Capcom team... I need my tea. It's hot. So the Capcom team put together a port, using mostly the same assets from the original SNES game alongside some stuff from the other console titles, such as voice lines, and apparently I was wrong earlier about this being Wind Waker Link's yell. It's actually Ocarina of Time Link's yell. Still not really all that sure about it, to be honest. But while working on the game, they decided to add a multiplayer side mode that took elements such as ideas in the main villain from their Minish Cap project and incorporated them into this new mode known as The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords. An adventure where up to 4 players must cooperate to battle, solve puzzles, and of course save the Princess Zelda from the weird, shadowy blob that is the Wind God Vati. The side mode was designed to resemble the recently released Wind Waker, with some of their own design touches added, such as having a new design for Zelda that would go on to be your Minish Cap look instead of them reusing the Wind Wakers. Upon release, critics and fans said that they really enjoyed the side mode and they wanted to see more. The team didn't really develop 4 Swords to be like its own sub-series of Zelda games, but with its success they were given the green light for 2 sequels. So the team decided to make 2 more games and finally tell the Zelda prequel story that they always wanted to. Though according to the official timeline, only one of these is a prequel. Do we respect this chart anymore? Cause I kinda got the feeling that after Nintendo said Breath of the Wild happens at the end of all timelines, I kinda feel like most fans collectively kind of realized that this shit is probably fake news. Especially after they denied that Hyrule Warriors was canon, even though all of its bullshit probably would have made the Breath of the Wild cop-out work. But whatever, let's just get into the game. Starting with the story, cause there isn't really that much here. Some crazy amount of years after the Minish Cap, a new Link and Zelda head to the Four Swords Sanctuary, as Zelda believes that the blade's seal on the wicked Vati is starting to fade. Oh, real quick before we get into it, I have to make a correction. According to the wiki, Vati wasn't sealed away in the sword at the end of Minish Cap. Apparently there was supposed to be an in-between story that just never saw the light of day. It's really weird when you think about it, since Minish Cap came after the two Four Swords games, so it would have been obvious just to have that storyline in there. But hey, maybe there was going to be another Four Swords game about that just got cancelled. I really don't know, to be honest. Zelda ends up being right, and Vati pops up and snatches the princess, claiming her to be his new bride. Don't really remember him being interested in girls last time, but hey, I guess being in prison for 1,000 odd years really builds up the horny. He takes Zelda and flies off, with 3 fairies appearing before our hero to tell him that he'll need the power of the Four Sword in order to defeat Vati. Link takes the blade and splits into 4 separate versions of himself. And then, by exploring 3 dungeons and rescuing 3 great fairies who for some reason insult you if you don't collect enough money. Why are all the fairies in Zelda such gold diggers? Well, at least the fairies give him a set of keys which allow him entrance into Vati's palace, where he defeats the sorcerer and seals him back within the blade, saving the princess and letting Link return back to his usual single self. Yep, the story this time was only a paragraph. I guess that makes sense considering this is all a side mode. You couldn't really pack a full adventure's worth of story into it. I'm not gonna dock points for this, you're not playing this for the story. As such, I don't really have anything to say character-wise. Link is a hero, Zelda is a damsel, and Vati is a horny. Not too much to really speak on, except for maybe these duck lip things. Apparently they're fairies, but they only have this design in like 3 random Zelda games, so I'm not really sure why they look like this. But I honestly love it. Their designs are just so simple but goofy. This is what all Zelda fairies look like to me now, unless the game shows me otherwise. Next time I play Ocarina of Time, instead of a tiny glowing lady, Navi is now going to look like this. Oh god. Somebody's got to mod all the Zelda games where this asshole takes the place of the fairies. That would be awesome. A lot of this game is kind of like a beta version of the Minish Cap. You can definitely tell with how the gameplay and visuals feel like earlier versions of that game, with how the combat and movement feels alongside the brighter Wind Waker inspired visuals. How the gameplay differs, however, comes in the fact that this game is set up as a level-based multiplayer experience, where you and up to 3 others can play and compete against each other to earn more rupees and get a cool medal for your troubles. Being a stage-based game, you aren't really able to keep different items you obtain from one screen to the other, so the game limits each link to 1 item, making the players have to get used to multiple items since you need to regularly switch them out in order to progress through the randomized levels. The music is really good. I know, Zelda music good, big shocker. But I do think a lot of the original tracks for this game are really underappreciated. Though some of them do tend to get really repetitive, like the one that goes dun 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 dun. Yeah, that one's a real fucking earworm. But only if you listen to it for long periods of time, so the short like 10 to 30 minute stages, it's not that bad. But I wouldn't really recommend something like that for your car playlist or something. Now after being Vati, you may notice that there are 2 extra doors in his palace. Those doors can be unlocked by going back and grabbing extra keys from the 3 levels. They're earned by going through and finding a certain amount of rupees and proving to the great fairies that you can make that goddamn bank! Or something. Gold keys for 3,000 and hero keys for 5,000. Now don't go worrying about these on your first run, as you're unable to collect the gold keys till you beat Vati for the first time, and the hero keys for when you beat him the second time. I personally didn't end up collecting these since you need to either do it by yourself or with a friend who's already beaten Vati as many times as you. And on top of that, how many rupees are in a stage is completely random. So say if you played a level 10 times, that doesn't guarantee you'll have 3,000 or 5,000 rupees to collect. I eventually decided that this really wasn't worth the time to go for since I'm playing this by myself, and this is clearly one of those things you're supposed to grind for with a bunch of friends who play this game religiously. I barely got my brother to play this with me for an hour. Not because it's a bad game, but because getting a game of Four Swords ready to play with a bunch of friends in 2023 is kind of a huge pain in the ass. Plus, I knew I wasn't going to 100% this game anyway, due to a certain thing we'll get to later. Like I mentioned earlier, the anniversary version of this game adds in a bunch of cool extra stuff. First up, we got the Chamber of Memories that is unlocked after beating Vati for the first time. This includes 3 extra stages based on 3 classic Zelda games for the 25th anniversary. These 3 levels are just beautiful and they perfectly capture the spirit of these classic games. Holy fuck, is that Bow Wow? Yeah, eat those motherfuckers! Then after completing this incredible throwback, you, the 4 Links, obtain the Master Sword. Not sure how it splits into 4, but fuck it, why not? I love these levels as they are a perfect celebration of classic Zelda turned into a multiplayer format. They're just so cool, and I'm always a sucker for the Game Boy styled Zelda graphics and Zelda 1 in general. Which is kind of funny since I don't even like Link's Awakening to be honest, but that game and its remake's visuals just look really good to me. I'm not really sure why. But that's not all, as if the player either decimates his teammates 5 times and doing yard work and making that bank, or just collecting 30,000 rupees, which you should have after a fairly lucky playthrough, you'll gain access to the Hero Trials, which are designed to bust your balls. This place is ridiculous and perfectly designed to exploit every little problem with 2D Zelda, to make it almost impossible to beat. And on top of that, it's like hours long. It's crazy. I made it halfway through and this was where I decided to throw in the towel. This is just not designed to be beaten the way I was playing. This was designed by the devs for you and a group of friends to tackle over and over and over again. I like the Hurricane Spin, but that is not a good enough reward for this, man. My biggest problem with this game is that it's not really meant to be played all the way through on single player. You can beat the main stuff that way, sure, but otherwise this game is meant to be what it says on the, well, I'm not really sure of cover, but you know what I mean. It's a multiplayer experience where you and friends come together to save Zelda. As a multiplayer experience, it's totally fine. Maybe not the best thing ever, but fun. As a single player experience, you can have fun with the novelty. Switching between the 2 different links to solve puzzles and battle enemies is a fun concept. But I really can't recommend this as a solo-only experience. Which, is ironic, considering that's how I've been playing this game since 2011. Yep, it's time for some sentimental shit, boys. Get your notepads ready, cause we're delving into some chubby lore. Back when I was a little shit kid, I watched tons of well, I still watch a lot of YouTube, but I mean I was watching a lot of channels like Chugga Conroy, who alongside Brawl introduced me to Zelda. My younger self had played crossbow training before getting into those 2, but somewhere in the in-between years that game was erased from my plane of existence. At least till I made that video on it last year. So, inspired by Brawl and Chugga, I got Phantom Hourglass. Mostly cause Chugga Conroy's Wind Waker playthrough introduced my 8 to 10-year-old self to Tetra, who would go on to have a profound impact on my taste in women. Which is low-key either a fucking mood or kinda concerning. I don't know, but somehow over the years between this period and 2017, the Zelda series would go on to reawaken that taste in both my teen and adult years. So I guess I now like my women how I like my coffee. Thanks, Zelda! Anyway, I played Phantom Hourglass and I fucking hated it. I dropped that shit so fast it was crazy. And even though I went back and bought the game a few years ago, I still have not played it. Love the sequel, but I have not touched Phantom Hourglass. I don't know if it was that stupid ocean temple thing you had to keep going back to, or if it was the fact that Tetra only showed up for 10 seconds and then got kidnapped, but my child self refused to touch that shit again. I was really thinking that Zelda just wasn't for me, until a few years later where I got a hold of Anniversary on my DSi. I'm pretty sure that I didn't know how credit cards or Wi-Fi worked at the time, but somehow the game was on my DSi XL or whatever. And I remember playing the shit out of that game, and I even eventually beat it. I have this vivid memory of finally beating Vati and seeing the credits that I ran and showed my dad and brothers while we were on vacation. This game made me so happy. Which is funny because I would then go on to play it a little here and there over the years, but I never really looked up anything or really played the game past the Memory of Chambers bit. I had genuinely no idea stuff like the hero trials existed till I started doing research for this video. I just thought those little icons right there were for show or something. I was such a little dipshit, but man did that dipshit love Four Swords. Even though he was playing this multiplayer game all by his little old dipshit self. After watching those old Smash Machinimas, him and his brothers/cousins would be all the different Toon Links mimicking Four Swords. I would come up with my own stories about me somehow using the Four Sword like Link did, and even to this day I still think the power to duplicate yourself is still probably one of the better superpowers. It's honestly one of those things where the sky is the limit with storylines or just weirdly awesome fight scenes. Yeah, I'm gonna stop him there. He goes on for a little bit and it's just too much for this video. He just went on and ugh. I'm not editing all that shit, and I don't think y'all want to watch it. So how about we just skip to the end, shall we? You cool with that? Cool? Cool? You in the back? Yeah, fuck you too. Alright, enjoy the rest of the video, everybody. Chubby Editor is out. Four Swords is by no means a must-play Zelda title, but it's always going to be one of my favorites due to the concept of controlling multiple links and just the amount of fun my child self had with it. I hope the Big N finds a way to get something Four Swords related on Switch. I don't care if it's a new game or just a port of this game on Nintendo Online, but it's ridiculous that this series somehow never came to the system that would honestly fit it better than any other console beforehand. Oh, and yeah, that will include the game we'll be talking about next time. Don't really have any sentimental feelings towards that one, but hey, should still be a fun video. And if you're interested in the single player experience where you control multiple links, well, this one coming up may be more up your alley. But hey, that's for next time, and I hope to see you all then, in the third installment of this Four Swords saga, The Legend of Zelda: Four Swords Adventures. See you then. Well, fuck, I hate to do this little interruption thing again, but I didn't mention that you can actually get the Master Sword and Hurricane Spin in the GBA version. But instead of getting them from the extra stages in the Anniversary Edition, you actually get them through a quest line and a dungeon added to the Link to the Past part of the game. I really haven't played it myself, but the exclusive dungeon is really cool from what I hear. There's gonna be an ending interruption in all these videos. Fuck!